Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the latest update of the Miramar Innovation and Technology Village. Good to see everyone. Just want to do some housekeeping this afternoon before we start. We do have an in-person and an online audience this afternoon. So for those of us who are in the room, you may have received some index cards that you're able to write questions on during the presentation, and we'll take them at the end. Or you can raise your hand and you can ask your questions out loud. It is really up to you. You have that choice. For the individuals who are online, we will also be taking your questions. You can either type them in the chat or you can raise your hands online and we will call your name and you will be able to ask your question out loud. For those of us who are in the room, if you have a question, you would need to come up to the microphone if you want to ask it in person, or if you submit your card, we will read your question out loud and then we can have them answered. For the purposes of our gathering this afternoon, we do have with us our Mayor Wayne Messam, who you'll hear hellos from in a little bit. We have City Manager Vernon Hargray. Our Deputy City Manager, Mr. Whittingham Gordon, is standing by the side there. And we also have Assistant City Manager Kelvin Baker behind me. I am Sean Gale, Assistant City Manager and spokesperson at the City of Miramar. And again, welcome to the latest update of the Miramar Innovation and Technology Village. At this time, I'd like to invite Mayor Messam just to give his hellos and welcome before we start the presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Gale. Good evening, everyone. First, I'd just like to thank all of the residents for coming out this evening. I know many of you or some of you have been working with our city staff as relates to some issues and concerns that residents have raised for the community, specifically here in this section of Miramar. And I would like to thank you for your engagement. I'd like to thank you for all of your feedback. Do know that our number one priority is to inform the community as much as possible about some of the ideas and goals for the city of Miramar. Without delaying the start of the program, I do want to put some things into context, into perspective. When I first ran for city commission back in 2011, and I spoke to many of you and many of our neighbors in the neighborhood, one of the number one complaints was that, or at least the perception, is that everything is being done in the West. There's nothing happening in our neighborhoods here in the East. And the East built the West, and they're getting everything. They're getting shopping, they're getting housing, they're getting commercial development, and nothing is happening here. In fact, there's traffic issues, there's flooding issues in our community, in our neighborhoods when it's rained, and what are you going to do for us here in East Miramar? And that has pretty much been the tone for almost every subsequent elected official that have been elected on the commission, to have some kind of impact here in the East. So one of the thought processes was, first, let's talk about our infrastructure. And when you really think about it, a lot of the infrastructure had not been upgraded since the founding of the city and the initial development of the city. The city of Miramar now, and you'll see in the presentation, you'll see how much that has been invested right here in East Miramar to improve stormwater drainage, access to quality water, built a new water treatment facility. We've renovated all of our parks. We have our public safety facility that'll soon be opening. You've seen the redevelopment in terms of Shirley Bronca Park and the Youth Enrichment Center, and even this facility. And right here, phase 4 is in the process of starting stormwater drainage right here on this side of the community, which will alleviate a lot of the infrastructure challenges. But when you start talking about vision for the city, when you start talking about redevelopment, if we do nothing, we perish. So what is before us right now that we have to decide as the city is, what do we want for historic Miramar? What do we want for the East? How do we maintain the culture of our communities where we've raised our children and have come to enjoy our neighborhoods while being able to put ourselves in position to attract mom and pop businesses and even some national chains, but have a good quality of life here? You shouldn't have to drive all the way west for a nice breakfast or a coffee or even a job. Currently, right now, we are working to put ourselves in the process for the next 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. So by improving our infrastructure, which we are doing right now, and doing land use amendments that is being proposed right now, it's not for a specific project. It's just so that we can put entitlements in place so that we can work as a city, so as well as the private sector as well can be able to know what they can do, what they can develop that makes sense for them as a private investor working with the city or a private investor investing in our neighborhoods while having the least impact on our community. So as you look at the presentation, all I ask as your mayor is for you to have an open mind, have a critical mind, because this is our neighborhood. These are your homes. It's your block. It's your park. It's your family. It's your children who are coming back home from college and from the military. And some of you don't want them living with you. You want them to have their own place. And you want to be able to play with the grandkids, but you want to be able to send them home when it's time for them to go home. But currently right now, housing options are a challenge. City of Miramar just a couple of years ago was rated the least affordable city in Florida, not South Florida, in Florida. The reason why is because all the new developments are market rate and a city not having a formal housing plan. But we're addressing those things right now. So the land use amendment that is going through its process right now, which won't be finally voted upon until this summer, is going through its process. That's why many of you got your communication in the mail from the Planning Council about the meeting that's taking place on Thursday. They are a stakeholder, and they will give feedback and impact on what they and how they view our land use amendment request. But it's not a final decision. They're just giving remarks on what they feel the proposal will be an impact to this region, and then sent to Broward County. And I invite you to participate in that process. But our staff is working very hard. They've gotten the mandate from the commission. If you are on that first community webinar last year, and we were talking about that, the charge was clear. Listen to our residents. Now there's going to be some disagreements. Some of you may not agree with what may be proposed. Our commitment is to hear what those concerns are. And our goal is to find a solution for those concerns so that we can reach that goal of the least impact to our community. For if we do nothing, we will perish. We will be left behind. You've invested too much in our city. We've invested too much in our city to allow our city to deteriorate. You deserve the best, and you're getting the best. And our staff has been charged to give that and to deliver that, and you are first. And we want to get your feedback from this presentation. So we look forward to your questions and any comments that you may have regarding this presentation. And before I sit, I'd like to recognize my colleague, Commissioner Coburn. I think I saw come in, who's here. And do know that we are listening, we're watching, and we look forward to getting your input.
Thank you, Mayor Messam. And as he said, Commissioner Coburn has just joined us, so we'll give her a chance to say welcome to the group.
Hello, everyone. Good to see everyone. Happy New Year. Hope 2021 will be so much better than 2020, and I'm holding on to those hopes. And I spent a couple hours actually today with staff and took a look at the presentation that you're about to see tonight and spoke to them in some details. And I'm pleased to see that they have been doing a lot to improve the community. A lot of work as it stands now to improve what we have, but at the same time, they have some other plans. And I certainly am here today. I'll echo what the mayor says in terms of being here to know what is it that you want. I want to hear feedback from you. I want to know, how do you feel about this? This is the community that you drive in and out, where you sleep, and it makes more of a difference to you than anyone else. So I want to know how you feel about this. And hopefully, at some point in time, we can get to a place where it is something that you want for your community. So thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner Coburn. Now, some of you may have participated in the update that we had last year with the virtual meeting, and we had a lot of conversation, a lot of input, and a lot of that has been put into tonight's presentation and contemplated based on those comments. So at this time, we are going to start the presentation. Again, remember, please write your questions down. You can ask them in person or hand the papers to us at the end. At this time, we'll turn over the presentation to our city manager, Mr. Vernon E. Hargray.
Good evening, everyone. This has been a very long journey for me. In 1997, the city hired me as the Public Works Utility Engineering Director. And there's always been a passion with me about the historic Miramar, because this is where I started at. But I was brought aboard because there was a development that was going to take place from Palm Avenue all the way going west. But my interest has always been in historic Miramar, especially when at the old City Hall in here, which is here, where every time it rained, our kids would have to go to school and they'll be standing in water about 3 feet. And I always kept it. And one day I realized that, where do kids go at? Where do they go after school? Because in Brown Sub, we always had some place to go. In Key West, we always had to go to Douglas High School after that for programs. But I realized there was no place for our kids. Some of you may remember that the Public Works and Utility compound was located with the YEC. That was a wastewater plant. But what I didn't know, it was not decommissioned. So I had the bright idea that I was going to clear everything, only to find out that I had all that sludge coming up. And remember, that was the time where you had the Christmas parties and everything at Shirley Brinker Park. So I had a task trying to clean all that up, but at the same time with a vision in here that we needed to have some place for our kids. Well, we do have some place for our kids, because our kids is our future. And I can remember myself in here, having a mother would have 4 kids in here, and there was a coach that would come in the neighborhood named Lonnie Coleman, and would pick myself up, Nat Moore, Mickey Rivers, and take us and put us under their umbrella. Well, somebody had to put somebody under the umbrella with these kids. I went to FAMU in here, and I realized there what my glitch was. I wanted to be a social worker. That's what I wanted to do, to reach out and touch people. But God had his own plan. Went into the military, lieutenant, came back out, but that passion was still there. I have the same passion here in Miramar, and it's been a good run in here. But the one thing that's significant to everybody to understand is the reason why we couldn't move forward on the historic Miramar is because it did not have any money. We did not have any money. In fact, you want to really know the truth, we were broke. I couldn't borrow any kind of money, nothing. So what we did is we went to the back road. All right, we started working with the developers, and they're the ones that pay for everything west. We convinced them with the largest bond that ever happened in the United States in there. We did a bond and had all those developers. And I met with each one of them to agree to pay for all the infrastructure. So it wasn't you paying the infrastructure, we had them doing it. But you were carrying the weight, because when you build a wastewater plant or a water plant and the area is not developed, who's going to be carrying the cost for the staff? It was historic Miramar was carrying it. And that always stayed with me. So when I had the opportunity to merge both systems together, I did. One Miramar, one water system and one wastewater system. Everybody don't realize, but we did that so that when we made money from the West, from impact fees, we use those impact fees and we leverage it in the historic Miramar area. As you're going to be going through this year, you're going to see something that stands out. And this is what I was concerned about. Over 21 years ago, staff came back and they had a plan. They had a plan that we need to redevelop everything here. But one thing I can remember, I was looking at data. So since 2010, I think I got it up there, 2010, 2007 to 2020.
Testing.
What you'll find is something interesting. And I use this analogy with my staff sometimes. If you take a frog and put him in a pot of water, cold water, and turn on the fire, he'll stay in there and never know the difference and die. But if you take a frog and put him in hot water, he's going to jump out. Well, this is what happened in historic Miramar. We didn't realize that as everybody was transitioning from the east to the west, we're just like that frog sitting in that water, where that water is starting getting warm and we're going to die in it. So what do you see here during that period? What you see is that from 2007, that's when we're peaking, and then you see we drop, because you remember what happened in 2010 or 8. That's when we ran into that recession. And you see what happened to us. Now that's property values, and now it's starting to go up. So you can see right now where we're at in here. But take a look down to the bottom, the red line. What you're going to realize is that it's flat. What is that being flat? That's your business. The business in Miramar is dying. The East is dying. Why is it dying? Because you go back and think, the only way these business, retail, and anything that goes on in here, they have to have density. They have to have somebody spending money. So let's go back and look at some of the things that the staff was challenged with during that period of time. Look at the amount of money that we have spent in historic Miramar. That would only happen is because we have a passionate staff that never forgot where they came from. Now say it again, never forget where you come from. And this is where it all started at. So we'll spend, you can see that total of $191 million. I can tell you right now, go to the other cities and see if that took place in here. So this is what we have done. Take a look at the multi-service center that we're here. We had an option. We could have taken the center, this is what they wanted to do, and rehab the town center, rehab the city hall. No, we're not going to do that. We're going to do something different. We're going to make sure that if City Hall is going to move, then we need to leave a presence here that when people come in historic Miramar, they know that we're here. And the commission supported us doing that. The fire stations, 19, right next door. We needed to make sure that we took care of that. Now, there's some things that, you grow and you learn. We could have went out for a GO bond, but at the time, and that was in the 9/11 hit, we had an opportunity, but we didn't. All right? We didn't do it. We can talk about why, what in it, but we didn't. So that left a challenge, but we knew that we still had to address these infrastructure. Like I said, the Youth Enrichment Center, you see what happened. Think about it when it was built there. The Aquatic Center, Fairway Park improvements, the 19th Street Park, you can see each one of these things were very important. The Shirley Baker Park and Band Shell, because that was our history. All right? And we didn't want that to be left. And then you can see coming soon, the police substation. And what that's all about, the one thing everybody will be talking about is having security. Now, that's not no jail cell, all right? It's about making sure that we have a presence in here. And remember now, we got 441, you got University, all right? Ways that people could come from north and south in here, going through our location here, and we want to make sure that we have a plan, all right? Later, you're going to find out that we're going to have a plan to make sure we protect all our residents, period in here. So thinking, just going back and thinking, because I'm always like to deal with numbers, and I don't know why my father's an accountant, but I'm not no accountant. My father used to tear me in, but somehow it just sticks with me. Data. What you're looking at right now is that all that yellow is that the residential units. in Miramar. Think about it. From the university already 441. What stands out is look at the blue. The blue represents the business. There's no way that this community can support the small business because we found out something else. The average units, homes, is around $250,000. And what you're also going to find out something else in here is that we have a lot of rentals. Yes, rentals, okay, we've got a lot of rentals. But what you're not paying attention to, like I talked about the frog, is that who is taking over the rentals? Foreign investors. So what was the biggest fear and scare that the commission had? Is the decision was going to happen at the White House. Because if we experience, and things have changed in here, there are going to be a lot of folks in our neighborhood that will be put out in the streets. So we are always conscious about our residents. My mother had 4 kids raising me. So I know what it's like going from one apartment to another apartment, knowing that because my mama was a barmaid. And I'm not sure that she hustled. So I know what it's like when going to school and you don't have no shoes and you take your stepfather's shoes in here and you wear them to school. And then kids tease you. I know what that feels like. But when you look at this here, it's very important here to take a look that all that yellow has been there over 60, 70 years. Because you got to remember, what did Miramar consist of? What was Miramar? Well, glad you asked, because many years ago, everybody remember Eastern Airlines? That's where the people that work for Eastern Airlines did not want to be in Dade County, so they moved up. But when they lost their jobs, that was a game changer. So what we're doing now, we're experiencing of what has been built there, but the infrastructure was never improved because people started moving. So let's take a look at this here, the category. Cost of historic Miramar improvements. $229 million. That just don't happen. I know it didn't happen in Liberty City, and I can remember this here. My grandfather lived on 3rd Avenue and 10th Street. They asked my granddad and told him that he had to move, because they had a 10-year plan. Plan was to get everybody out of there and move. Now I go back to Liberty City here, over town, and guess what? Where my grandfather lived at, it's a parking garage. We do not want gentrification. We want our community. I have a son, been blessed with one. They said my wife couldn't have no kids, period. One day she come home, tell me she's pregnant. That was after 11 years being married. All right? So I'm the oldest father. All my friends got grandkids. All right? And they can, but here I am, I got a son that's 32 years old. And I'm 69. All right? But I'm still hanging in there. All right? But the reality of it is that it's all about our children. So you can take a look. $229 million for historic Miramar improvements. That don't happen unless you got somebody who looks like you in here, who feels like you, who have lived here, that cares. Look at the residential and the commercial property taxes that we collect through that whole period of time. You see what it looks? $86 million versus we put 229. I tell you what, go to Fort Lauderdale and see if that happens. I can tell you right now, Fort Lauderdale, whether you go to Lauderhill, North Lauderdale, what kind of money was spent there? That's because of the leadership and people caring, having a commission that has the care of it. Now it's time for the staff and get me to stop talking. I can say this here, I'm passionate. And whatever we do, we got to do it on one accord. But we got to keep in mind this here, is that whatever things that we do, we got to look out not for ourselves, but the future of our kids, the future of the community, to give. There's nothing else but to give. And that's what I've been taught. A closed fist, you can't get nothing in, you can't get nothing out. But when it's open up in here, then it opens the door for great things to happen. We have a great commission. Don't get it confused. We may have a disagreement. They keep me busy. They keep the staff busy because they love Miramar and they love historic Miramar.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Can we give our city manager a hand? I'm Kelvin Baker. I'm one of the assistant city managers, and it's my pleasure this evening to provide you with a recap of all of the activities that have come out of the task force. I've had the pleasure to come to some of your homes and talk to you about some issues and concerns, and I trust you have seen some of the results from our effort. At this time, I want to focus on many things that have taken that have taken place, and provide you with an update of the improvements that we have made since our last gathering. On March 18, 2020, the Miramar Innovation and Technology Activity Center Land Use Plan Amendment was up for first reading by our commission, and it was provided for transmittal of the amendments to various review agencies in the state of Florida. On August 13, 2020, which is part of this update this evening, is the Miramar Innovation and Technology Village. We had our virtual community meeting, and at that meeting, various concerns was expressed, and we trust that as you hear the presentation this evening, you will see that we've heard your concerns and have addressed many of them. On August the 25th, 2020, the city manager put together a historic Miramar, we call the Historic Miramar Task Force. And the task force was commissioned to address many of the concerns that you raised in the meeting. There are many concerns that were not specifically related to the project, but it was specifically related to the upkeep of your community and some things that are going on in your community that you did not like, and that was the ultimate purpose of it. And it's my pleasure to provide you with some of the highlights from that. Again, the task force was created, and we have various on-site meetings, and some meetings we've had with some of you at the pavilion and in the Verna Hargrave Center, and some of those meetings even occurred at your home. But I want to just real briefly just highlight some of these key issues that came up and some actions that our city took to remedy the situation. One of the major issues was mosquitoes in the area, and we were able to address many of those issues. Again, when you talk about mosquitoes, it's not like a one-time situation. They, you kill them off or discourage them, but they often find a way to come back. But we was able to provide the community with the contact information with the county in the event that the mosquitoes would come back. But we did put the call in, and the area was sprayed. As it relates to water pressure, there was an issue about water pressure in some areas, specifically one of the cul-de-sac areas. Most of the homes there, the water pressure was very low. We, with some investigation, discovered that a valve was not completely open, and had the opportunity to get that resolved and bring water pressure back into that particular area. Then, as it relates to streets, trees, and landscape maintenance, you can see some of the before and after pictures. We quickly pulled forces together and was able to get in there and prune some of the trees and get rid of some of the dead palm fronds and things of that nature. And also another item that came up was trash in the area. And in our real close investigation of why the trash was so heavily in certain parts of the community, because there was no trash receptacles. So the individuals that were pedestrians and passing through had no other option but to make it available for somebody else to pick up. So we were successful at depositing trash receptacles in some of these real critical areas where there's a lot of activity to remedy that situation. A concern arose related to the Woodscape HOA community, and perhaps some of you are here from that community. We had numerous meetings and discussions with the Woodscape management, and was successful at getting them to take some proactive measures to maintain their properties. I know when the manager and I went out there shortly after our gathering, we found mattresses and furniture and all types of stuff thrown around the area. And again, if it has come back, I've not seen it, and I tend to come through the area on a frequent basis. But I think we've gotten HOA's attention, and they do understand that the city is looking and making sure that things continue to be maintained as they should. Throughout the area, there are different areas where there are sections of sidewalk that's missing. And history tells us that as these sidewalks were programmed and planned many years ago, some of the homeowners did not want the activity in front of their homes or whatever, from walkers or whatever, and opted to not put sidewalks in. Well, the city is putting together a plan. Hopefully, we'll have better success with getting the community and those impacted, those without sidewalks, to agree to put them in. But we are formulating a plan. You'll hear a little bit about it in one of the presentations. But we were able to identify many of the sidewalks. We've actually identified some sidewalks that were unsafe, and some of them have already been addressed. That was very, very, very critical. Another area that came up is street lighting, and street lighting is really like similar to those sidewalks. You know, you can have a group of folks that say we want street lighting in our neighborhood, and then you say, well, who would like to have the pole in front of their house? And nobody raises their hand, so there goes the street lights. So our public works director, which you will hear from shortly, is working together to show the community how to get petitions signed, so we make sure we have a consensus before we roll out the street lights in those given areas. Another item came up related to a barrier fence right by the PBA park, right adjacent to the pool. We were able to take some actions and put a larger fence up that provided better protection to the private property that was adjacent to it, and that fence is actually up now. Another item came out, and this did not come out in our community meeting, but this came as a result of the manager and I speaking to the neighborhood in the cul-de-sac directly behind the police substation. And their concern was one of the neighbors had me go to his backyard, and he said, "Sir, would you like to come home and stare at that?" And I said, "No." And so as a result of some discussion internally, we decided that we are putting a wall up there, and that wall is already designed and scheduled to be in place by the end of February. Nextly, in our meeting, several issues came up related to the convenience store and what it looked like, and the litter, and the some late night, very questionable activity. Our police chief really took this particular area under his full control, and kind of proactively looked into some of those issues, and as a result, arrests or two came as a result of our police department really looking into the area. In addition to that, we had an opportunity to sit down with the property owner, and one of items that would create so much litter on that, in that parking lot there, was that he had insufficient trash containers. So we encouraged him to get some. And last time I was out there, he had at least 2 or 3 out there to handle the traffic. Another issue that was brought up was related to crime data in the area. And as we went back and looked at the crime data was showing that crime in the overall area was really flat. And so I want to say to you, if you see something in the area improper that's taking place, it's very important that you dial 911. When you dial 911, then we're able to capture that data. Oftentimes we hear of issues occurring, but it was never called in, so we go to check the logs and whatever, and we are unable to identify and see exactly what is going on. But you know, we're just weeks away from the opening of our historic Miramar police substation, and we're trusting that once we're able to activate this facility in the area here, that overall we'll see even greater results. At this time, what we'd like to do, we have a lot of good information that we will be highlighting. It will again address several of the issues that you raised in our last update to you. We were going to be talking to you about the drainage, and the drainage improvement that's coming is not coming to a neighborhood near you. It's coming right here. And we're going to talk about the innovation and technology village and the density. And you'll be really surprised to hear that we listened and we've made many necessary adjustments. And one of the glaring issues that kept coming up is the traffic in the area. You know, the traffic in the area, the cut-throughs and things of that nature. And so we have a presentation and a study that's been pulled together. And then finally, we want to share with you and somewhat unveil what our new community sport park will look like, all of the features and all of the amenities that will be made available to your community. At this time, I'd like to have Mr. Anthony Collins, our Public Works Director, to come and provide you with some highlights of the upcoming drainage improvement. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Madam Commissioner, city staff, and of course, our resident of East Miramar, Anthony Collins, the Public Works Director. I'm here this evening to share with you a couple of issues and to bring some information to the community as it relates to the Phase 4 drainage project. So the issue at hand is that several areas were identified during site tours that are encountering flooding problems, especially during our summer season, during the hurricane season. Some action that has been taken so far to temporarily address some of those issues and to mitigate the flooding problems. We have implemented a drainage plan, a master plan for the entire area, which will modernize the drainage system and to permanently correct some of the challenges. So the Phase 4 drainage project, the design and construction of the stormwater infrastructure improvement project is within the city of Miramar, the historic side of Miramar. It's coming to this side of town. The project is intended to alleviate flooding within, again, this area by improving the percolation and treatment of stormwater, thus improving water quality. The project is divided into 6 phases. Construction of Phase 1, 2, and 3 is already completed. Phase 1, 2, and 3, the map here depicts the location of it. So Phase 4 is where we're focusing right now. This is where it's coming. So just to give you some timeline as to the progress and how we're going to get this all implemented. So the Phase 4 is currently in the design phase, and it's anticipated to be completed mid-2021. So it goes through different phases. The design has to be designed, has to be permitted, has to be reviewed, and then it gets construction. The construction cost is estimated to be around 12 million, and it's expected to begin in early 2022. The project of its magnitude takes about 2 years, 24 months. So again, this will bring improvement to the infrastructure. Like the mayor alluded earlier on, infrastructure for this area was not improved since the inception. Number of years old, and it's just the nature of infrastructure. It has a life cycle, and then there's a need for improvement and to bring about the required changes that is desired. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Good evening, everyone. My name is Eric Silva, the Community Development Director. I'm just going to give you a brief update on the land use plan amendment for this area. Just a quick reminder, the land use plan amendment, that land use plan is our long-range plan. We're talking 30, 40 years into the future. Every city in the state is required to have one, and it basically lays out a bucket of development rights that can be used in the future. The next step, of course, would be zoning, and then a site plan, and then a building permit. So it's really sort of the big picture look at how the city's going to grow. So the past year or so, all those meetings that ACM Baker mentioned regarding some of these issues, we had our issues on density that were discussed, concerns about traffic, and concerns about park space. And we listened. We listened to the community, we listened to some of the experts at Broward County, and we made some changes. The top line here, residential, we started off at 900 units. The application that is moving forward is down to 450 units. Commercial/retail square footage, we started at 400,000 square feet. That has been reduced down to 300,000 square feet. And that 300,000 square feet includes about 220,000 square feet that's already on the ground. So when I say on the ground, I'm talking about the two large shopping plazas, the Bravo/B&M, the Taco Bell, the Publix Plaza, the Dollar Store, all those retail uses are included in that number. So the net increase will be about 81,000 square feet. Office use, this is something new. When we talk about office and municipal, what we're really talking about is the hub, the innovation hub, the training center. And then park space. Park space here, right now, we have just over 10 acres in the area. And park space, that's a minimum number. So by law, basically, by the comp plan at the city, the comprehensive plan at Broward County, we have to maintain a certain level of park space. So we're at 10, we're gonna have at least 10, and we expect to have more park space in the area. And just a note, just a reminder, we did take out those 42 single-family homes. The schedule, it's a long process to amend a comprehensive plan, to amend the future land use map. We started about a year ago, and we have a meeting coming up this week. This is the Broward County Planning Council public hearing. If everything goes well there, it'll head to the Broward County Commission for first reading. Then the application will be transmitted to state and regional review agencies. That means the state of Florida, the Water Management District, Department of Economic Opportunity, the South Florida Regional Planning Council, Department of Transportation. There's at least 10 or so agencies that look at this application. If everything goes well there, then it goes back to Broward County. Because land use it's different than zoning. There's actually two entities that have jurisdiction over land use. Broward County, they have to amend their map, and we have to amend our map. That has to be approved by both the county and the city. That'll be the final step in the summertime, probably June or July, for the second reading at the City Commission. And at that hearing, we'll take into account comments from the public as well as comments from all those agencies. We'll get letters from everybody. We'll get resolutions from the county. All that will be considered at that final hearing. Next up is Hector Vasquez, Strategic Development Officer.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to walk you through the plan and to share some of the changes that have transpired. And we actually, I know a lot of the community members when we met previously, well, what's it going to look like? Well, I'm pleased to report we've been busy. We have some renderings, some fly-throughs that is going to give you a picture of exactly what it looks like. So this kind of gives you a general idea of what the area looks like. In the lower corner there is the density numbers that Eric talked about and the reductions. And so we'll start, I'm not going to spend too much time on this one. This is, Daryl's going to cover that in a following presentation. This is what we're calling phase one, which is essentially the park at the Henry Perry Adult Education Center. And again, we're going to get into some details with you. I'm going to skip it for now, but that is the location. And then phase two, we've kind of bifurcated into phase 2A and phase 2B. Essentially, these are the city's parcels. And what we're looking to start with is the actual technology center. Again, this is the building where we're going to have the partnerships with the universities, the business incubator, those programs to really benefit the community and enrich the education component in the area. That is intended to be directly behind, and I know this is hard to see, I'm going to share with you some other more detailed slides, but essentially it's intended to be right behind the Youth Enrichment Center currently. And it's about a 2 to 3 story building, some 30 to 40,000 square feet, initially with surface parking. Woolman Park is another component, that's the 2B phase, and there's 2 keys there. First of all, we're looking to add a new Southwest 33rd Street to accommodate the traffic, understanding several of the community concerns with traffic continuing to flow down to the southern areas. We believe this is going to be an enhancement that will keep traffic, especially with the new portions of the uses, kind of to the north. And the Woolman, the other component of Woolman would be actually incorporating some level of residential. Now, the residential there, if you remember from some of our initial meetings when we were looking at 900 units, that was expected to be potentially 4-story product, 4-story buildings, mostly rentals. At this point, we've scaled that down. We're looking at between roughly 50 to 80 units there. A portion of the site on the western side, kind of where the baseball field is, would actually remain as park space. And then the other section would actually be where the actually townhouses, as well as maybe some rental would occur. And again, we're looking at roughly about 50 to 80 units there. And some of them would be for ownership, not only rentals. And then phase 3 actually comes back to the Youth Enrichment Center. And this is going to be kind of the multi-story building where we would enter into the partnership for the transit hub, additional residential, some 100 to 120 units, and the structured parking garage. So in essence, we kind of broke out the technology hub on its own from some of the initial plans you may have remembered. And this piece would be moving along a little further. Now, it's important to note that the actual technology hub, the city would actually be able to move forward with right now because it is a community facility use and it is accepted right now under the current plan. And because it's a city component, again, we can move that part a lot quicker than we can the wrap buildings and the residential, considering that that's more of a partnership project with other entities. And then finally, we're talking about the phase 4, which is kind of going out, that can probably take till 2028, 2030, which is what we hope to be the redevelopment or the addition of the shopping centers. That's now, if you followed my math, we're talking about maybe 80 units on Woolman Park and about 120 in the Youth Enrichment Center site. That's about 200 units. So that would leave the balance of the 450, about 200 units that could be accommodated within those shopping centers. And I'll show you a rendition of what that could look like. And again, we've had initial conversations with the property owners there, the Publix, the Bergeron, which owns certain properties, as well as the Bravo owners and the Mini Mart owners. And they're receptive to the ideas. They realize that, you know, as the manager was indicating, moving forward, they need to enhance their properties. And they think that these ideas could be something that they would be very interested in. So this is just, again, Daryl's going to get into the park, so I'm not going to spend time on it at this point. He'll do that next. Okay, so this shows you basically that initial site where we're showing the Innovation and Technology Hub. You'll see that it's a 2 to 3 story building directly behind the Youth Enrichment Center location. And then you have surface parking where currently the tennis courts are, and that would be obviously additional parking that's necessary for that particular facility. Now, the red line kind of shows you the traffic circulation pattern. And again, we're designing this in a manner so that even though we're putting in the technology hub initially, you know, we can drop in the remaining uses down the road and there's not going to be any impact to any other existing structures on the site. Phase 2B, going back now to Wellman Park, I actually have 2 different scenarios and 2 setups. This one is showing strictly townhouse only, and it's showing you about 56 townhouse units. You can see that the traffic circulation all the traffic would go to the new Southwest 33rd Street, which is on the top there where it says new roadway. So again, we're trying to keep that traffic to go up. We understand the concerns with some of the schools. So we are trying to avoid any additional activity on Southwest 34th Street. Beyond that, you can see the loop there on the western portion of the site on the left of the screen, where you would see a park. This is intended, again, to be more of a passive park, maybe a walking trail, those sorts of things, again, for the community to enjoy at all times. And then this is a slightly different arrangement that's being considered, where you still see some townhouses on the easternmost portion, and then in the middle, you see some actual multi-story buildings. Again, everything that I'm showing you here is no more than 3 stories. And in the middle, you would see some rentals. And again, still maintaining that park space on the westernmost component. And this is the artist's rendition of what these the townhouses would look like. And this is what the potential apartment units can look like. And then now going back to the the youth enrichment site, you again see the Innovation Technology Hub there in the corner that we talked about earlier. And these are the other uses. This would be potentially 4 to 5 stories. And this is where the transit hub would be located, as well as additional residential, that kind of mixed use building with the parking structure kind of in the center of it. And this is the first floor plate. As you can see, it roughly fits right in the middle of that parking area we were initially laying out for the Innovation and Technology Hub. And these are the upper floors. As you can see, the parking garage in the middle. And then instead of keeping a parking garage that's kind of exposed, you can see that it would be wrapped, kind of around it, would be wrapped with individual residential units. And this is what it would actually look like. This is a view kind of looking towards the west. You can see the buses kind of coming in and out, and then the residential units above. It's similar to actually the transit hub we have at Town Center, if you've been, where you basically have all that activity on the first floor, and then above it you have dwelling units. These are other views. This is actually a view from Miramar Parkway. You can see the tower there off on the left. And then finally, phase 4, which again, this is what would be the Bravo Shopping Center as well as the public shopping center. This is a general vision of what it could look like. The idea here is that the developers, those property owners would have the opportunity to bring their buildings out to the street a little closer. They would have tuck-in parking in the back, potentially with some level of garages. And then, as you can see, the residential or the office can occur up above. But the scales, again, have been brought down. Again, initially, we were looking at 5, 6, 7 stories. Now we're talking about more so on the 4-story range. And this is happening everywhere. This is actually a project that's actually been built in Davie. And just down the road, I was out there earlier this week, and they have another one coming up. So again, this is something that affords these private owners the ability to go ahead and redevelop their properties, and at the same time make it something that's realistic for them, because they could bring in other uses, and those are the kinds of uses that are going to support these retail businesses. And at this point, we'll turn it over to Sal for a review of the traffic analysis.
Thank you, Hector. Good evening, everyone, and everyone watching at home. Thank you for participating. I am Sal Sunig. I'm the city engineer. So I'm gonna go briefly over the traffic concerns and impact by this development. So we listened to the community and the school board as well about traffic issues and concerns that the residents had. Some of them are existing issues, other are concerns regarding the new development. Some of the existing issues are cut-through traffic from County Line to Miramar Parkway, speeding in the neighborhood, traffic circulation, especially during school hours, and obviously the concerns about the impact from the redevelopment of the parcels. So we went ahead and had a traffic consultant do an analysis and a study. Here you can see the area that was studied between County Line Road Miramar Parkway and between 68th Avenue and Florida Turnpike. Also, two major intersections were analyzed, which is the 69th Avenue and 68th Avenue at Miramar Parkway. So the analysis took into account future growth and also assuming that all phases will be developed. However, we know that, and as being presented by my colleagues, these are going to come at different times. So phase one, which is the park, is going to be the first phase coming in as early as this year, late this year. This has very minimal impact. You're basically just moving apart from one side to the other. So it has like very little impact as far as traffic. The next phase, which consists of two parcels, the one at YEC and the one at Wellman Field. The one at YEC, it will generate additional trip from its current use, but it's not that much impact either. The phase three will have additional trips when it comes, but that's expected on, it could be 2028, and it's all contingent upon the county moving forward with this. And phase four, which are the shopping centers, those could be coming 2030 and beyond. However, the analysis took into account all these phases coming at one point. So based on the analysis shows that all the roadways that were in this area, in the two major intersections, will still operate at an acceptable level of service, even after all phases are completed. However, we're still proposing to do some roadway improvements to kind of help with circulation, to kind of give a peace of mind to the residents, to provide minimal impact by this new development. Some of the improvements that we're proposing is to extend 33rd Street between 68th Avenue and 69th Avenue. This is a completely new road. Also reconfigure the intersection at 69th Avenue and Wildcat Way. That's the entrance at YEC. And also construct a roundabout at the intersection of 34th Street and 69th Avenue. So with this new roadway configuration, when phase one comes, which is going to be the first phase now, that has very, as I mentioned, it has very minor impact. It's just a park. Phase two and three, which is going to be on the city property at the YEC, with the trips are expected to go towards Miramar Parkway, most of the trips. So it will have a less impact to the residents to the south. So most cars coming in and out of this development, especially with the new road, will be distributed mostly towards Miramar Parkway. The same with the phase 2B, which is at the Wellman Field, the residential side. When we construct the new 33rd Street, most cars are going to exit 33rd and redistribute towards 69 and 68. And phase four, if he ever comes, obviously most of it will be to and from Miramar Parkway, because that's their main access to the shopping centers that are there. Another concern that we commonly heard was the bus traffic, school buses going to HD Perry. They tend to cut through the neighborhood to get to the entrance of HD Perry. So this new road that we're going to provide is going to provide a bypass. So the buses will be able to just bypass the neighborhood and just go straight to the HD Perry entrance. Also, another issue that exists now is the school buses just congregating along 69th Avenue and by the Publix and kind of like blocking that intersection. So this configuration will provide a turn lane dedicated for the buses where they'll be able to stack there and move away from that intersection. Also, we have additional right-of-way that we can provide additional stacking if necessary, just north of that proposed road. So that will be this area. Another issue that exists now is the traffic by AC Perry. When parents are dropping off our kids at the school, they just line up along 69th Avenue and 34 street, and they block the road. You can see that picture on the top. You can see this car trying to like just bypass everybody, and he's going the wrong way because he cannot get through. So the roundabout will provide a better circulation for that intersection. And also we're proposing to construct a shoulder bump out areas along those roads so the vehicles can pull to the side and let other drivers that are not going to the school or dropping off kids just go through. So this will help a lot with circulation. Other immediate improvements to address some of the concerns that will be done, can be done immediately. It's speed humps. Speed humps will alleviate some of the speeding issues. It will also help discourage cut-through traffic between County Line and Miramar Parkway. Nobody wants to go through speed humps, so they will try to avoid that road. Also, the city has an ordinance that is going to adopt an ordinance shortly to designate areas as not through truck zones. So this is an area that can be designated as a not through truck zone and install appropriate signage so you don't have large commercial vehicles cutting through the neighborhood. And restriping and signage, that also helps with circulation. So these are things that can be done now. Other improvements in the community include sidewalks. So we have obtained several grants to install sidewalks. This shows two of the projects, about 18,000 linear feet of sidewalk that we're trying to implement, that we're going to implement in the vicinity of AC Perry to promote pedestrian activity for the kids to walk to school and other residents alike. So this shows everything that I've been talking, the road improvements. This shows a simulation of what the road network will look like. So you can see this is going north on 69th Avenue. This will be turning to the new YEC entrance. You can see the water tower there. And this is coming off Miramar Parkway on 69th Avenue. You can see the two parks, and this will be the new road that will provide access to the residential area on Wilman Field. Thank you. That concludes my presentation. I'll be here for any questions afterwards.
Good evening, everyone. Darrell Johnson, Construction Administrator, City of Miramar. Just a brief overview and update of the new park facility at the existing Perry Adult Education Facility. Currently, we are in the design stage. We are progressing through that stage. We come up with the conceptual design and we finalize the scope of work. As you see on the screen here, to the left, the upper left, you'll have a restroom building with park storage. Adjacent to that, you have 4 tennis courts. That's highlighted in the blue with observation seating in between the tennis courts. Adjacent to that, you have table tennis with permanent type of concrete tables. Then you have the proposed playground area. This was an option that we got the idea from the residents to include a playground area. South of that, you have an open field for intramural sports. You'll continue with the soccer play, football, whatever type of sporting events. The school has also asked us to provide a regulation 200-meter track, oval track, what you see there, with a 100-meter straightaway. South of that, you have the equipment, which is right south, right there. A cluster of exercise equipment. And to the left of that, we're going to be resurfacing the existing basketball courts. And finally, we'll have a circumference pedestrian walking, 6-foot wide pedestrian sidewalk walking trail for the pedestrians for the walking exercise. And also there'll be various site amenities like the water fountains, and seating as well. Currently, we're looking to wrap up the design in April of this year. And after that, we will probably commence with construction around May, which will be a 5-month duration and ending in approximately October of this year. I'll be available to answer any questions you may have in reference to the park. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes the presentation. And now, remember, if you have questions, does anybody have cards they want us to collect? You want to ask your question in person, or you want to collect the card? Okay, so while we're going around and collecting the cards, Vice Mayor Chambers joined us during the presentation. So if I could give him an opportunity just to say hello to the group while we collect the cards for the questions. And we do have some questions that were submitted online also that we'll go, come on, Vice Mayor, in the meantime, that we will go ahead and submit to the group. So briefly, Vice Mayor Chambers will greet us and while we collect the cards.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Gill. I just want to say Happy New Year to everyone. And thank you for having me and stopping by. I hope you make notes and voice your opinion as to the project at the hand. And don't be afraid to reach out to all the elected officials and state how you feel and ask all the questions and make sure everything is answered. It's in your hands, whatever you want. I'm here to support whatever you guys want. So just let me know. All right. Thanks. And it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So we're going to start with the questions and answers, and you wanted to ask yours in person. So we'll give you the opportunity to ask your question in person right now.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for the presentation. The park presentation there was really nice. That's a good idea. No, it's really good. The question that I have, and I'm sure everybody's going to have in the neighborhood, even those who didn't show up, is the traffic issue. You're adding residential units, and you're adding commercial units, and you're whichever which way you decide to go, you're going to have at least maybe 300 more residential units there. If we add 1 car per house, 2 car per house, not everybody's going to be working right in that area. They got to travel to go to work, right? So what you've done is you put in a nice traffic roundabout there, which is a really good idea, right? The question now is, what happens on 68? And the other question is, those people still need to get to the turnpike. How would you expect them to get to the turnpike and slow the traffic down? What you've done now, you've increased the volume of traffic on our street. The speed bumps and the roundabout will slow them down, but they're still going to be there. Literally, what that's going to do is we're going to be seeing a whole lot more cars because they're not going as fast. But on 68, that's going to be a highway. So, and then the residential neighborhood in Woodscape is going to see all that traffic now for their kids and playing there and whatnot. You're adding, every time you add a residential unit, you're adding cars. And that's the big concern we have. Okay, I like the idea that you're going to keep a little bit of park space at Wellman Field. I mean, I know we can't fight it to not do it, but if it's going to happen, at least have something there. And the question is going to come down, where are you going to go with all these cars onto the turnpike? You have to take that into account. They're not going to all go out onto Miramar Parkway and let's say go up to Hollywood to catch the turnpike or go out to west to get the 95. They got to come through our street. And I'm on the corner there, Eric's on the corner. What do you think is going to happen? So it needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed quickly if this development is going to continue. We're going to have a traffic problem. So that's my question. Hopefully we can get some answer or some, because you consulted, the numbers you have here are clearly not accurate. It's not taking into account the additional people you're putting in and the cars you're putting in.
Hi, thank you for the question. Yes, based on the analysis, yes, there will be additional trips. generated by a housing that wasn't there, now will be there. Let me just be clear, the analysis and what I stated was most of the trips will be towards Miramar Parkway. It doesn't mean that all of the trips. Yes, some of the trips will go to the turnpike, but we cannot assume that everybody's going to be going to the turnpike either. So they are distributed throughout. Now, the roads as they are now, based on the analysis, and we can have a more detailed discussion with a traffic consultant, they're able to accommodate the additional trips that these new developments are going to bring. And that's why I wanted to show that the level of service will still be acceptable based on the roadway that is there here and those two intersections. So even though, yes, there will be additional trips, the purpose of the analysis is to show that the roadway network will be able to accommodate those additional trips being generated by the new development. Understood. I mean,
While you're on transportation, Sal, this question is, please define trips. When you say the number of trips on the road, this question is, please define trips. When you say trips, what does it mean?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I apologize. Trips mean the vehicle trips, the additional cars. And keep in mind, the analysis takes into account the peak hour, meaning it analyzes based on the morning, when is your peak hour, and in the afternoon. It's not throughout the whole day. So, yeah, the busiest time of the day, during the morning and then during the afternoon. So the trips is additional vehicles, and this is based on Institute of Transportation guidelines that provides the number of trips that a development generates based on their use. If it's a commercial use, if it's a residential use. So these are additional vehicles that are being put on the road at the busiest time of the day, during the morning and during the afternoon, and that's how the analysis is done.
Okay, Eric was going to chime in, and we have two more transportation questions, so don't move, Sal. Eric, go ahead and chime in.
Yeah, on transportation, I just wanted to mention that the analysis that Sal was talking about, that was an analysis looking at traffic that's on the ground now and what could happen in the future based on that development program. So that's one traffic analysis. As part of the land use plan amendment process, there was a traffic analysis done by the Broward County Metropolitan Planning Organization. There's also a traffic analysis done by Broward County Traffic Engineering. And what those studies were for, that was a comparison of what could be built under the comprehensive plan now, today. So what we could build right now, we could go out there and build community facilities and would generate a certain number of trips. Or we can go out and build this new project. And what those two studies found was that the new project would generate 13 more trips. 13. So one way or the other, it could be community facilities, or it could be this other thing which generates 13 more trips.
So an online question to do with transportation, Sal. What is the outlook for traffic during school time, as this is already an unresolved issue? What is the outlook for traffic during school time? And I guess that means school hours for drop off in the mornings and pick up in the afternoon. What is the outlook for traffic during school time?
Right. So good evening. I'm Trent Ebersole with the McMahon Associates. We're the traffic consulting firm for the project. I guess there are a couple of things there. With regard to the schools, there's really no strategy to reduce traffic at the schools. In part, one thing is school traffic tends to be slightly a different time period than the regular commuter traffic. But, we understand that there's congestion on a 2-lane road where vehicles are stopping to let children out, to pick children up. And one of the physical improvements that we've included that we hope will alleviate that are the bump out parking areas that Sal was talking about earlier, so that the the drivers who are dropping off and picking up students, they can pull off of the main roadway. And so the residents, people who live there that are driving by won't be stopped because of that. Was that? So if you see the green areas, that's actually where the roadway would be the same width as it is today. And then between those green areas, where you see a dark black line, those would be those, those parking areas, if you will, for the cars to pull off and pick up and drop off. I mean, that's an issue. A lot of schools, and I apologize, the mask with glasses thing is something I'm still trying to get used to. A lot of schools will try to prohibit the dropping off from the streets, picking up, but it's something that's very difficult to actually enforce, to get parents to stop doing that. I've seen schools where they'll prohibit it right along the school, and then the cars will just move out a block and do the same thing. So this is an attempt to just accommodate what we know is going to happen. Hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah. This next, we have two more transportation questions. This one says we need speed bump in the neighborhood, and I think, did you address speed bumps, Sal? I think you did on one of the slides. I'm not sure if you need to rehash that slide to show the plan for the speed humps in the neighborhood.
Yes, we are proposing speed humps in some areas, specifically along 68th Avenue, and reconstructing the ones along 69th Avenue, and also in the Woodscape community. So this will help alleviate some of the speeding issues, and as I mentioned, discourage cut-through traffic through the area between County Line and Miramar Parkway.
And while you're at it, Sal, this question has to do with that slide that you showed with the traffic patterns, with the traffic going, funneling or filtering onto Miramar Parkway. The online viewer wants to know, how did you determine that these folks are going to go on Miramar Parkway and not go south through to County Line Road to enter the turnpike, to enter north or south on the turnpike?
Right. So, and to go back just a little bit with what Sal was explaining, what a trip is. So a trip is actually, to be clear, it's one way. So if you leave your house and go to work, that's a trip. If you leave work and go home, that's a trip. So both ways is, we're not just saying there's a house, there'll be one car. We're looking at the directionality as well. So the distribution largely was based on what the existing patterns are. If you have a residential use today and you see which way the cars are going, primarily to one road, 30% to one road, 60% to another, 10% to another. We looked at those patterns for the existing traffic and use those same patterns for for what would be generated by the new residential. Likewise, the non-residential uses might have a slightly different pattern, but that again was mirrored for the non-residential new uses.
Okay. So I'm going to take all the transportation questions, and we do have another one. I understand that a new road is going to connect County Line and Miramar Parkway, passing west of Woodscape and HD Perry to avoid 68th. Having said that, is 68th Avenue going to increase from 2 lanes with turning lanes? How long will this phase be? And then we'll address the flooding in another question. So I reread the question. I understand that a road is going to connect County Line and Miramar Parkway, passing west of Woodscape and HD Perry to avoid 68th Avenue. Is 68th Avenue going to increase from 2 lanes with turning lanes? And how long will this phase be?
I understood that they're saying a new road is going to be connected constructed between County Line and Miramar Parkway.
Yes.
There is no new road being proposed. The connection from County Line to Miramar Parkway, the only connection right now, it's through 69.
Okay, so maybe we need to show that slide to clear up what the viewer is thinking is going to be a connection.
So that will remain as it is now. The only new road is it's behind the public shopping center. So it's between 68th Avenue and 69th Avenue, behind the public shopping center. And this is the extension of 33rd Street. Right now, 33rd ETs are the Publix on 68th Avenue, so it's just gonna extend and connect to 69th Avenue.
Okay. So I guess to clarify for this person, there is not going to be a road connecting Miramar Parkway and County Line through Woodscape. And the question is 68th Avenue going to increase from 2 lanes with turning lanes? There is no
Yeah,
increase.
yeah, 68th Avenue will not increase, no.
Okay,
Only
perfect.
speed humps are being installed.
Okay, perfect. I think we have tackled all of the transportation questions. We do have a couple of flooding questions. This one says there has been flooding in connection with those road questions, but we have another question to do with flooding. We need to drain our streets to relieve the flooding. So there are two individuals that are talking about flooding concerns.
Okay, so part of what I presented earlier on was the city recognition of the flooding problem in the eastern section of Miramar, particularly this area. We have engaged the services of a civil engineer, consulting engineer, that is currently in the design phase, analyzing the different locations within the drainage basin, and is coming up with flooding solution that is consistent with standard engineering designs. So when the project is finally constructed, we should see significant improvement in terms of flooding within that area. If that answers the question.
Okay, so in essence, the answer to that is the phases that are coming up for.
Yeah, for construction, the phase that is being under consideration will address particular flooding concern within this section of historic Miramar.
Perfect. We had a question early on, and we have a gentleman who wants to speak his question in person. But I'll give this question, Hector, this question might be yours. With the reduced number of dwelling units and the presentation that said we went from 900 to 450 units, with the reduced number of dwelling units, what is the proposed distribution in terms of affordable units for professionals, et cetera? And do the criteria include working in Miramar? So I repeat the question. With the reduced number of dwelling units, what is the proposed distribution in terms of the affordable number of units? And when we talk about those, the criteria that you need to meet, do those criteria include working in the city of Miramar?
Sure, thank you, Sean. As far as the affordability of the units is concerned, yes, affordability was one of the things that we also heard the community on. I think there were concerns expressed that, initially with the city's proposal, that some of the ideas were to make these, ultra low affordability and ranging within lower area median incomes. At this point, what we're proposing to do is essentially what Broward County is requiring, which is at least 15% of the units will be really workforce range, which is 80 to 120% area median income. And Eric, I don't remember the number. That's roughly around $75,000.
Over 104,000 for a family of 4.
I'm sorry.
And it's 67 units total. 67
Yeah.
units.
So out of the 450, roughly 67 units would be essentially affordable. So that's how we're looking to address that. Now, that being said, any developer that takes a hard look at this is going to want to be within the market range. And the little bit of good news is that the neighboring areas, a lot of the homes in that area are right now selling within an affordable range. So, within a workforce range. So we do anticipate that as we're working with whoever we might partner with to assist us with the actual construction of these units, we're going to really push that remains a key point, that, we do remain within the affordable range of the community. Now, it doesn't mean that they're going to be labeled at a certain number as far as affordability, but again, it'll be something that should be comparable to the pricing that you're seeing with your own homes. And I'm sorry, Sean, there was a second part to that question.
Do the criteria include working within the city of Miramar?
Okay, as far as working within the city of Miramar, we do have to be somewhat cautious with that. because, there are certain requirements. You can't necessarily steer or necessarily key in on certain portions of the community. It has to be kind of fair housing and opportunity for everyone. Now, again, that being said, there are things that we can do that do sort of benefit the Miramar community. One example is sometimes notice is given to the Miramar community before maybe the rest of the world knows that these units are for sale. So again, there's little things we can do, but we do have to ensure that, we do follow, appropriate practices for marketing these units.
Thank you so much, Hector. And we have quite a bit of questions coming in online, and we do have some more on the cards and a gentleman who would like to speak. Commissioner Davis has joined us. I will ask Shalima to unmute Commissioner Davis just so she can say hi to the group.
Hi, thank you, ACM. It's good to be here and to know that we are reaching out to our community in the way that we know how to, fielding questions and comments and trying to have our community understand what's envisioned and to get their input. So thank you so much. I came on a little late, but as they say, better to be late than never. And I'm listening in to the comments and the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Sir, please go ahead with the question.
My name is Eric Young. I'm a resident here since November 1998. One of the things that brought me to Miramar, I am a resident of Prime. That's where I was born and raised. Actually, the first person in multiple generations to ever buy a home. And one of the reasons why I bought the home in Miramar was primarily because of its astute location, quick access to the turnpike, because I worked down in the City of Miami area. One of the things that also brought me to the community was the quality of schools that was there at the time. One of the things that also brought me there was a grocery store parking lot and also green space, the park. At the time, we had children playing baseball down the street, and I could envision myself growing a family there. By the time I had kids, all that went away. Schools started going down. And work life started happening. I was a person that traveled all over the country, 40-something weeks out of the year for the last 12 years, and I could say I didn't attend city meetings when I came home for the weekend. One of the things that I found insulting, though, was coming home to find a card in my mail that allowed the city commission to use a rule to not notify the rest of my residents that they were entertaining construction in my community. I thought that was very insulting. And I definitely thought that when I went around and I talked to my neighbors, and I found out that many of them didn't get that same notice. In fact, when I spoke to a city official, he basically told me it was left to me to go notify those neighbors. And I'm the reason why all this is the way that it is right now, because I went to Kinko's and I spent $200 printing up postcards, basically going around talking and sharing in the community. That's what I did for a living. It didn't bother me any. I just knew it was going to be probably a pretty rough time for the commission. And now you have residents that's riled up from misinformation. I'm perfectly happy now with what I've seen. Definitely the cutback on the amount of property that is building in our community. The traffic is always a problem. Wayne and I live right next to each other, and we've seen, yeah, I'm sorry, Coach. We just have seen the traffic just explode. To tell me you're gonna just build, I mean, you came up with an analysis of 70 trips from building hundreds of more homes. I mean, I'm not a dumbass. You get what I'm saying? We know what the traffic exploded to when they built the Moheca Isles right across the street from, and everybody used us as a thoroughfare. So the whole point what I'm trying to make is the commission is gonna communicate with the residents. I think you all need to abolish that rule, that when you're going to talk to us in our residents where we pay our tax dollars, I think that number one, you should definitely always include the entire neighborhood as a whole who's going to want to weigh in with what you're doing. What you're doing, if it was communicated appropriately, like it's being done right now, I'm very pleased with what I just saw. I don't want to buy, I always envisioned me passing my home down to my children. And now I have to decide with my spouse whether or not we're going to stay in the neighborhood or whether or not we want to entertain all the new construction. But what I've seen now, I feel better than what I did when it actually was initially proposed with minimum language. Try to call and talk to people and they basically giving you the runaround, not even responding to emails, not even responding to your phone calls. You sending emails, they communicating back with you on the email, they don't even respond. And of course, you know, I just retired. I don't have any problem but come to the commission meetings every week now, you know, and I learn all the rules of what we need to do. The whole point what I'm trying to make is just be real with us. You're talking about our livelihoods. Our homes are our nest egg. And when you're talking about building apartments, 900 and something units at the time, the way it was proposed, you're going to have problems with us in our little small neighborhood. Rainbow and Miramar, all of us know each other. If you look on Zillow, none of the homes are for sale. We love each other. And I'm just saying, just have a little more decency and respect when you're communicating with us. I appreciate all the activity that we see right now with cleaning up the place, making sure things are done. I appreciate the city manager for coming to the residents on the golf carts with all his people. That's stuff that you all should have been doing. Let's just be real. But I just want to definitely appreciate even the mayor for coming out, standing and talking to us like everyday people. That's what we want. We want to have a commission that is communicable to the residents. And I really appreciate you for making yourself available as most of recent. And I really appreciate some of your staff who've also knocked on the door, delivering graphs so we could better understand what you want to do in our community. With that, I'm pretty much done. I really just want you guys to continue to do what you're doing right now so that we could still weigh in on, just don't cut us off. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. We have, in pertaining to that, or you have a separate question? Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I got to run, so I got to be quick. In reference to the project, I'm a little familiar with it, but the question I wanted to know if there was I was more concerned with property value. So the implications of the development in reference to the property value. Do you have any type of data that give you a projection of these developments? I know you guys have something similar in Davie. So I want to know the implications it's going to have for homeowners, and if you can have some type of data or research to show this potentially may help or may hinder, or these numbers may be off due to COVID, and especially when I think of commercial real estate and availabilities in space. And I got to run after that, so I'm just going to listen to you.
Thank you. Thank you for that question.
Yeah, and really quickly, since I do know you need to run, everything that we've looked at and experts that we've talked to in the industry, this is not expected to diminish property values in any way. If anything, they will remain as they are, continuing to grow. And we do expect it to actually enhance property values. I mean, this is an investment in the area, and typically that does tend to show a positive outcome to property values of the surrounding areas.
Thank you for that question. Thank you, Hector. Now I've grouped the remaining questions into topics, and we do have quite a bit on parks, so I would leave those for last. But we do have a question with regards to lighting. ACM Baker, I think you addressed lighting in your presentation. It says we need a lot more street lights. Could you address that question, please?
Yeah, as we have looked at various areas, we do recognize that there is a need for additional street lighting. However, it's really a neighborhood effort of getting a a petition signed by all of the adjacent property owners to ensure that everyone is in agreement to put the lighting in. And from that standpoint, then we just coordinate our efforts with FPL and make that process take place. So it's not real complicated. It's really just getting the neighborhood in agreement to do such a thing.
Great. So with that collaboration, we should see some more lighting in the area.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you so much, sir. The next question has to do with police response. We have Assistant Chief Burgess with us, so I'll present this question to you, sir. It says, will the new substation improve the response time for the police in East Miramar? It took police 45 minutes to respond to my home when my security alarm went off.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Leonard Burgess. I'm the Assistant Chief. I'm here on behalf of our Chief, Dexter Williams. But I also want to acknowledge, I also have members of my senior management team here, which is Major Dunkelberger, who oversees our investigation, and as well as Major Vargas, who oversees our uniform patrol throughout our community-oriented policing. Thank you for the opportunity as well to come up here with a uniform with these astute group of men with their suits. And we're pretty excited about the presentation that was made tonight. So we're looking forward as well to increase the police presence as well as the police response. Yes, this is a true benefit for our police department to have something set up like this on the east side with a substation. Why? Just think about what we have right now in the middle of the city with our police headquarters. So every aspect of investigation, community resource officers, as well as our detectives, just think about that in a smaller scale. Now we have that same type of component and resource now that's on the east side, and meaning the presence of the patrol cars will be there, increasing the entire aspect of the historic area. What I do also like to share as well is this is something where we realize our priority didn't just start today, as well as what's being presented today. It's something that's been brought to our attention by the commission, as well as city manager. And it's something where we have enhanced our presence in the middle of 2020. And I'll present some numbers today, but what's even more important about it, this is something that every area with the violent crime or property crimes that have occurred on historic area of the east side, there has been consistent reductions in all areas. When I'm talking about particularly is residential vehicle burglaries, robberies, and thefts and auto thefts. So, but the only reason why these numbers continue to reduce has been a community involvement. There's been a community engagement with us. So we're very proud to see those that are here this evening to share those concerns, as well as those that are out there listening and watching. So yes, we're really excited. we think as well, like I said, the mayor and commission to make this happen and so-called to spread our resources there on the east side of town.
Awesome. Great to hear, sir. Thank you so much for that response. Now, the following questions all have to do with parks. So I'll start with this one. It says, why are all sports activities only in the West? There's nothing for the youth in the East community, like a football, baseball, tennis, etc. Can this be changed? And I know we had an elaborate parks plan. Liz, you're going to take that one. You want me to repeat the question? Why is it that all sports activities are concentrated in the West? There's nothing for the youth in the East community, like football, baseball, tennis, etc. And can this be changed?
Sure. Good evening. Liz Valero, I'm the Parks Director. Currently on the East, we do have several activities. We have we have 8 courts at Lakeshore Park. We also had courts at YEC that also offer a tennis program. We also have our PAL that does several activities at the YEC location, which is now being used for testing. But we do have activities at these parks. We also have our basketball, and we're looking to, with this new sports complex, it's going to give us amenities that all can engage from young youth, because we're going to have a playground, we're going to have fields, we're going to have several activities that we're planning there. But we don't run our own programs right now, and that's something that we're really looking forward to getting implemented. We are working a lot with Optimus. They also work over at Miramar Athletic Park, and we have football going on there. And hopefully with COVID, that's put a little hamper on it, but we're expecting them to come back very soon. They presented us a plan, and we hope to have that. But we do have several activities in the East.
Thank you so much. And I'm sure everybody knows where YEC is. I just want you to, just for perspective, say where that is, and we'll make sure that we have all those activities.
Sure. Lakeshore Park is by Sherman Circle. And there we have basketball, we've got tennis, we've got racquetball. We also have an open field. We have our dock there. So it's a park that has several amenities. Like I said, it engages anywhere from the youth all the way through adults. There's a walking trail, and we added a playground just recently in the last 2 years. It has a shaded cover. So it does present itself. YEC is next to Shirley Branca Park, and that facility has an indoor gym. We had a multi-purpose room there. We also have basketball courts and tennis there. And now it's being used for testing, but we hope that it come back online after the testing finishes there.
Awesome. Thank you, Liz. And just remain there just in case we have some more questions for you. But I think this one will go to Daryl. We need to have that fence taken down and move over around the park. And I'm assuming it's the new facility that we're thinking about here. So that's the question here about that fence.
Okay, good question. If you are referring, whoever proposed the question, if you're referring to the new, are you referring to the new? As you're aware, this is a shared space between the school board and the city. And one of the requirements was that we keep the barrier fence from for the students, to keep separate the general public from the students. So I don't think it's something that we could remove, but it's something that we could look into. Oh, so you're talking about the PBA part. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. No, I misunderstood. Okay, in reference to that, again, those palm trees, I'm sure that they were existing. And if you were talking about the existing fence, I believe that's a private owner's fence, so the city would not, I'm sorry, I stand corrected. We will look to address that.
We will look into that and address that question. So the final question that I have with regards to parks, it says, will the hours be restricted since it will be shared with the school? And this, I do think, Daryl, is in relationship to the new park construction that we talked about that shared space with our shared usage with the school board. So will the hours be restricted since you're sharing it with the school?
Yes, right now, sorry. Oh, school board. Okay. You have a representative of the school board. Answer that question. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Chris Akabusu, the Director for Facility Planning and Real Estate for School Board. The school board, this has been a great partnership. It's been, I've been involved with this project because normally before you do something with two entities, governmental, you have to have an agreement. So the agreement pretty much contains the usage of both sides. So when school is in session, the students have access, and then when school is out of session, then the residents. Pretty much it's in the agreement. I think, again, during the hours, I think a lot of, people work when school is in session. So definitely just a short answer, yes. It's going to be a shared, shared use and defined by the agreement. If I recall, I think that specific language is there, but it's flexible. But clearly the language in the agreement provides flexibility for something like that. But again, both entities, the City Commission, the school board, signed that agreement. Pretty much it's going to benefit both the residents and the city. I mean, I'm sorry, the residents. I don't have the agreement right here with me. If I recall, I'm not sure if it specifically states time, but the bottom line is when school is in session, then the students, because with the whole incident of security, you're trying to secure school site, then when school is out of session. So I can't recall if there's specific times, but I know when school is in session, then after session. Holidays, weekends, definitely, the residents, that's pretty much there. After hours for, after hours activity and sense of after hours program, I'm not sure, it may be. But the city has that agreement, and I think the city may be, willing to provide it, make it available to maybe whoever asked that particular question. Correct. Okay, so
Anita, if you could come, because the people online are not able to hear what you're saying, and then we
while
have.
Anita is coming up, one of the things we're working on all kinds of cities, like we're working with City of Miramar. One of the things that's going to be helpful, the city can post a sign in terms of the times, so the residents know what time it's available. So that's something we're working with other cities. That's going to make it very clear in terms of when it's available, okay? But it has to be consistent with the agreement that was signed, just to let you know.
The mayor is correct. From 5 o'clock to 10 o'clock, residents will have access to the park. If the school wants to use it for an after-school activity, they have to notify the city at least 14 days in advance, and we approve it. And it's available on the weekend and on holidays. So from 5 to 10 o'clock.
And we have a question here, sir. Just use a microphone so they can hear.
My name is Jimmy Jones. Mayor, you may know me. I sit with you at Corliss Bell's daughter's wedding. We sat and talked with you and your wife. I've been here for over 36 years. I'm on 3585 Northwest 69th Avenue. I was here when there was only 3 black families in this neighborhood. Okay? I watched all this change. I've been to these meetings. You talk about the lights. I've been complaining about this for years. And now we talking about changing them. Like I told them, the meeting that I finally got to over on the park, you all are jamming things down our throat. I'd like to know if this is already in existence, that we just have to accept it, or y'all trying to help us to accept it. Because at that time, I said at that time, this is not how things go. I'm a retired educator. I've been teacher, coach, administrator. And I understand how you work with people. Even when you talk about using the facility at those schools. We watched them take the junior high school away from us. When I moved in, there was not even a fence. My kids walked out my backyard onto the elementary school to go to school. They walked from there to the junior high school. I raised my kids. That's the reason why I moved here. In the process now, I'm finna redo my whole home to make sure it's in great shape. So if I want to leave it to my children, I can. But I don't understand it. It is frustrating to see things going the way they're going. Get a tree struck by lightning, I go before the council to make sure that they can cut the tree down so that limbs are falling, won't hurt kids walking under there. I have to pay $1,500 to get that done. It is amazing the thing. I watched this community change to a transitional area. And ever since then, it's been going farther and farther and farther and farther down here. Because back in the day when I first moved here, I didn't have to worry about the lights. You know that circle in the area where they have the townhouses? Oh, 12 o'clock at night. I used to drive through that sometimes. People walking around there because it was so lit up. Exercise. I can stand in my yard, look all the way over there and tell how many people walk around. Now I walk out of my yard, I can't even see from my yard to my neighbor's yard, who was one of the other black families who's still there. And they were there when I moved in. The other black family moved to Atlanta. It is amazing. And I'm just wondering, is this a done deal? That's my question. Is this a done deal? Can anybody ask me that? Is this a done deal? You should remember me, man.
Yes, I remember you. I remember you. And I enjoyed our conversation at the wedding. Yes. So I think one of the issues, what we're facing is that there are a lot of moving parts that are going on. And on the onset, there was a lot of misinformation in regards to what the city's actions were. I will admit that the city did not start this process from a communication standpoint with the residents, okay? And as the mayor, that's a policymaker with my colleagues on the commission, we work hand in hand with the city manager and our staff. So this is a moment of inflection where we are showing that the commission and the staff are putting the residents as a priority by creating forums and responding to the misstep in communication and starting out. That's why we're here tonight. That's why this meeting is online. As you heard and saw in the timeline, this is an over a year process what has to take place. And that's why we're continuing to have these outreach meetings so that we can be told what we're doing good and we can be told what we're not doing good. So as the mayor, I'm here to say that this process will get resident feedback and input. We'll get resident input in this process. Now, what the city has applied for is a land use amendment. And all that simply does is allows the city to embark upon certain developments over a period of time in the city. And it must meet certain state and county regulations. That's why it has to go through all of those approval processes that you saw on the board. In that process, the city has to give some reasonable projection on what could be developed based on the entitlement on what we are saying we want to allow the area to be. There is some thought that it could be townhouses and some rentals on the Wellman Field. On the YAC side, there could be some mixed-use development with the innovation center with some rental housing, and the public owners on Miramar Parkway frontage, Bravo and Publix could also do a mixed use. But we don't know what that could be. But to your assurance, there will not be any major private development or public-private partnership, meaning townhouse development, if it becomes that, residential mixed-use development at YEC, that does not have an even further public inspection in terms of the commission approval for that to take place. The only thing the city can do right now that has current entitlement is to do the park and to do the innovation building, because those are community uses. But for us to permit any residential development, that has its own approval process that has to go forward before the community. So for example, if 68th Street is a major concern in terms of cut through traffic and we're bringing additional units in there, that developer in the city is going to have to show specifically how that site plan, that specific development, which would be more now refined because the developer would say, we want to build this. So they have to show the impact and they have to address the impact. And in that process, there will be community involvement and engagement. So to answer your question, this is not approving a specific residential development. It's not. What it is doing is that it's just laying the ground rules and the rules that the city and developers will have to play in terms of any interest in any development that would take place in this specific neighborhood. So in preparation to respond to that first question that I brought up earlier, when residents said that nothing is being done in the East. For something to be done in the East, we have to make possible the provisions and the zoning entitlements that the development sector, that the city, or whoever owns property in this area will produce a product that the community wants. Because if we do nothing based on the entitlement as it is right now, as you saw with the city manager showed, it will just continue just to float on by and there won't be any progress in it. So our task is to set the ground rules that will allow progress and redevelopment in the area with the input of the community, having the least amount of impact that would negatively impact your quality of life that you are used to and that you expect in the community, while enhancing opportunities to spur development, to spur energy, to spur imagination, so that when we're dead and gone, and the residents that are here, our kids, our grandkids, our children, who will live in our homes, who will buy and invest and start businesses here, that they have the infrastructure that will support it, they have the schools to support the education of our kids. But this is what it takes. And this, to me, this is beauty, because we're communicating. We're hearing what we're doing wrong. And trust me, the city manager here, our colleagues here, I here, our staff here, they're here for you. And you deserve excellence. So when we fall short, I enjoy that being called to task. Mr. Wayne, we share the namesake, we have spirited conversation, but that's what civic engagement is about. So as long as we continue to communicate together and provide the residents opportunities to ask questions, this won't, the land use amendment itself, and that's just to set the ground rules. It won't come back to the commission until July, end of June, July. And here we are in January, talking about something that's going to be decided upon in July. So that just shows that we heard you. We heard the residents say that no, not in my backyard. You need to come to us to get our input. And that's why we're here tonight. So I hope I answered the question.
Okay. You said get the input. I understand, I work as a board member at my church. We're in the process of trying to build a fellowship hall. We have to deal all with the residents, trying to make sure we go for the city of Miami Gardens to make sure we can get it. If anybody in that city didn't want it, they came and they voted against it. Are we going to have an opportunity to decide with our vote as a community whether we want these type of things? As I just said, this is just information. We are still going to do the job.
Well, the process is any development that would require commission approval. So, for example, the zoning change in the city of Miramar, that will require a commission approval. The developer would have to meet with our staff. The staff will review their site plan, what they're trying to develop, and they will assess what the impacts will be to the community. That will include, does it require any additional recreation space to accommodate families you're bringing in? School district will have their input in terms of the development, in terms of will it impact the schools. Our various departments will have an opportunity to see if there any infrastructure or engineering impact, street study, all of that has to take place. And then staff is going to give a recommendation from the city manager through the staff, will give a recommendation to the city commission to say their recommendation is to approve this project as submitted, approve this project with these conditions. Those conditions are developed with, and in that process, there's a community meeting like this. There'll probably be some renderings of what's being studied. You'll hear about the traffic study. You'll be able to say, and staff tells the commission all the time, because they know we're going to ask. First question, did you talk to the community? What did the community say? And then you're going to be online, and you're going to be in the commission chamber saying, you didn't speak to us. We got concerns. But if we've been meeting with you and talking with you, you're saying, you already saw the niche staff came and proposed 900 units. The community said, we don't want 900 units. And it was significantly reduced. So never underestimate the power of the process, because we have a commission that's listening. And they know that they cannot propose anything without the input of the community.
I understand everything you just said. You still do not answer the question. Will we have a say-so of yay or nay? I've seen it too many times in communities where people want to do things.
Yeah,
and that
so
community say, I don't want this.
So you're,
and everybody in the community side, we don't want this.
yeah.
If we
I
want
understand
this,
your question.
will we have the opportunity to say yes?
Okay, so there's two answers to that question. Okay. Your voice is the commission. All right. The legal process is that the commission will make it. The developer will make a lawful application. And there's a process, a legal process we have to follow. So the commission, if it's a zoning change, would have to vote yea or nay based off of the recommendation from staff. The commission is to represent the community board. So if the community, or enough of the community, is saying that we don't want this, then the commission should be responding to what the community wants. Now, if the commission doesn't respond the way you want the commission to respond, then the community has to act in a way to have individuals that represent their position on the commission. So that's really that's how the process works. So it's not cut and dry that, okay, residents can say yea or nay that this developer who submitted a lawful application to develop a site can stop it. But you can stop it by being involved and engaged like you are tonight and sharing to your elected representation on how you feel about the project, if you want it or not. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor Messam. Thank you, sir, for your input. And with
I think the gentleman in the purple asked a direct question, is it a done deal? And it's a simple answer. No, it's not. It's not a done deal. And Mr. Young earlier made a few comments, and it's came off as if this is a city commission project. And I'm assuring you it's not. This is not something that the city commission come up with. This has been pitched to the resident, as it's been pitched to the city commission to go along with or approve or say no. So I don't want to have things misconstrued like this is something that coming out of the city commission, from the city commission, like other things that sometimes comes up and we have to put out the fire to remedy it. So I just want a resident to know that just as this has been pitched to you, it's been pitched to us. And it's like the gentleman asked the question, is the done deal? No, it's not. So I just want to clarify that. So this is city manager, staff, and so forth, that's, and developer who are bringing this project. It have nothing to do with us. We're going to look at it just like you're looking at it. And actually, I already have my opinion. So I'm quite sure some of the other member and the commission have their opinion. And it's going to be discussed, and you guys free to talk to any one of us as to where you guys are, and we take it from there. So this is not my project.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Chambers. With this next question, we would have covered all of the questions that were submitted to us in person, in writing, vocally, or online. So this has to do with the heavy rains that we experienced last year with Tropical Storm Ada. It says a sinkhole opened in my front yard after heavy rains last year. I made a call to the city as it grew over 2 days. I left it open for a few weeks before filling it. Are sinkholes a concern and need investigation by city engineers? Is this a City of Miramar matter? So I'm not sure which one of you gentlemen will take the question about sinkholes.
Is this a sinkhole in a private property?
It says in his front yard. It says in my, I'm not sure, I apologize for saying his. It said in my front yard. So I'm assuming that this sinkhole was on private property.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, the city has jurisdiction over the public's rights of way, and obviously we looked at any occurrence in a roadway, anything that happens in a roadway in private properties. We don't usually go unless we're called to assist. Sinkholes are a very unnatural occurrence. They're very hard to predict. They can have many causes. So, I mean, they have to be looked at on a case-by-case basis. But I mean, if we get their information, I don't recall anybody ever contacted us about it.
Okay.
We can evaluate and see if there's any feedback we can provide. to the
Okay, they
residents.
said they made a call to the city. So if the person who wrote this question, if you would please speak to somebody afterwards just to see what options they have. I mean, it's on private property, but what options do they have? And that
We can-
constitutes all of the questions that we did receive tonight. ACM Baker, I don't know if you want to just reiterate some next steps, takeaways for the residents, what comes next. And I know Eric gave a timeline about the Regional Planning Council and so on. So just an idea again of the next steps before we leave.
Again, we want to thank you all for your participation this evening. Again, we're continually listening. Our plan is to continue to come back with additional updates. So there'll be another meeting scheduled, just sort of outlining and providing some updates on some of the information that we heard this evening. We'll continue to work the community and address other issues as they arise. But again, on behalf of our mayor and commission, our city manager, we want to thank you all for coming out this evening to participate. Thank you very much and good night.
One thing I just want to mention for those of you who have not yet done so, please visit our website at MiramarFL.gov and sign up to receive alerts from the city and so you can be involved in a lot of the things going on in our city. Thank you.